Hi, and welcome back to another New Jersey Folk Fest virtual for 2020. My name is Maria Kennedy, and I am the Administrative Director of the New Jersey Folk Festival. Right now, we have brought together a group of musicians. So we're going to do this session as a group with some of the musicians we usually have on our shore stage. And I'm going to hand over to our MC for this event, Matt Houston. Matt is our Associate Director, and he manages the shore stage. So Matt, could you give us a little intro and tell us what we're going to be doing here today?
Yeah, so how's everybody doing? I'm Matt Houston. Aside from being the Associate Director of the New Jersey Folk Festival, I'm also the manager of the shore stage. And this year we were planning on doing something a little bit different. Instead of just having singer-songwriters on that stage, we are kind of changing over to a new way to look at folk music. So the new title of that stage is going to be New Directions in Folk. And a lot of the four artists that you will be hearing today would have participated at the short stage this year. It's something that we wanted to do and, get a little bit of different aspects of folk music. With folk music, there's such a wide variety from, more of a traditional style to more of a revivalist to instilling different aspects of different types of music, whether it's, African beats or humor or anything along those lines. So, it's something that I'm glad that we could put together. And so for the first performer I'm going to introduce is Lorin James, who is an American singer-songwriter who tells her stories through a singular sound that has roots in country, folk, and Americana. So I would like to introduce to everybody to Lorin James.
Yes, hi, how are you? I'm going to be playing today a new song called Tell Me Something Good, and I hope you all enjoy it. I was reading the news today. Girl my age passed away. She was beautiful and sweet. She wrote songs just like me. And I can't understand why God chose to take her, and it scares the daylights out of me. Got no control over anything. So darling, come sit down by me. If you don't mind, I need you to please tell me something good. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that it's all gonna be okay, baby. I need you to tell me something good. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that it's all gonna be okay, baby. Tell me something good. Tell me something good. I don't wanna live in fear. I'm not ready to leave you here. Any moment can be my last, but I can't live my life like that. What am I supposed to do? Won't leave the house without kissing you. When I'm in bed, I'll hold you tighter. You and I are on a timer. So darling, come sit down by me. If you don't mind, I need you to please tell me something good. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that it's all gonna be okay, baby. I need you to tell me something good. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that it's all promise me you'll always be there when I need someone to hold my hand. Yeah, and tell me something good. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that it's all gonna be okay. Baby, I need you to tell me something good. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that it's all gonna be okay. Baby, won't you tell me something good?
Thank you very much, Lorin. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you. Most songwriters, you know, they're trying to convey a certain, whether it was emotion or something that they were going through in their songs. But they also want to make sure that, you know, it can relate to many different people. From hearing that song, it sounds like, you know, you're trying to look at life in positive light, and, you know, especially with all that's going on right now. How did, was this something, a newer song that was written, or was this something based on something that previously happened, or?
Yeah, so this is a newer song. I'm going to be releasing this as my next single. And the song starts out, I was reading the news today, and I really was. I got on the computer, I was reading the news, and there was a country singer who was my age, wrote songs, and I read that she had passed away in a car crash, and it just, for whatever reason, really resonated with me. Like, oh man, like you really don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, you know, and you need somebody, you know, tell you something good, and you know, you just gotta move forward and live your life as you're gonna live it, you know.
I do. That's you know, especially with folk music, that's like a big thing that I see. Like a lot of artists try to do is they try to, you know, look on the positive side of things, and you know, even though they're telling stories about real things that happened, you know, and especially now with all that's going on, I'm expecting like a lot of great music from a lot of artists out of this.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, what does everybody else think about how society and like folk music are intertwined with each other? You know, if you look at like Woody Guthrie or any of the old famous folk musicians, a lot of their, I don't want to say bigger hits, but most influential hits were found around times when, you know, they were either protesting labor unions or things like that.
Yeah, well, there's that famous quote that folk music is supposed to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable.
I just saw a title of a book that I'm going to check out from the library when the library opens. It's called Hard-Hitting Songs for Hard-Hit People. And I thought, that's going to be good music, because folk really is of the even if it's, you know, 50 years ago from the 1700s or now, it's something people are experiencing now. It's real emotions, real times that we're going through, and it's what we have to say now. And hopefully a long time from now, people will be able to look back on our songs and be able to say, oh, I wonder what they were going through at the time. Oh, it was the quarantine of 2020 or something, you know.
Well, thank you very much. So I'm going to introduce our next performer. Our next performer is Karl Albrecht. She defines herself as a professional smart aleck who introduces a little bit of comedy and comedical stylings into her own music. So I'm going to turn it over to Carla.
All right. Well, I wrote this about a year ago, but it's just as relevant today as it was then. It's about someone who has a lot of trouble telling the truth. I'm not saying you're a liar, that you say things that may not be true. I'm just saying when I look around, there are things that I trust more than you. Like pet food from China, tap water from Flint, subscriptions that auto-renew. A mohel with tremors, a psychic who's broke the cleanliness of a bowling shoe. Miracle water from a TV preacher, a somewhat burnt surge protector. Nigerian email from promising cash, the meatballs and Hannibal Lecters. I'm not saying you're a liar, that just say things that may not be true. I'm just saying when I look around, there are things that I trust more than you. Like the guy reading the paper in a nondescript van, sitting across the street. Gas station sushi, a blind hairdresser, a plate of Taco Bell meat. My life savings in the stock market, a fart when I've got the flu. A Bigfoot sighting, a set of used tires, my cat with Pepe Le Pew. Yeah, I'm not saying you're a liar, that just say things that may not be true. I'm just saying when I look around, there are things that I trust more than you. Like a $3 bill, hair in a can, a period that's overdue. Clean white walls and a toddler with crayons, a hastily packed parachute. The ingredients in a hot dog, being in a cage with gorillas. The 5-second rule is an actual thing, and OJ will catch the real killer. Yeah, these are things that I trust more than you.
Well, thank you very much. That was really funny. So because it was funny, I wonder, how did you start introducing humor, or why did you start introducing humor into your folk music?
Oh, that's a really interesting question, and I have a little story that goes with it. I used to write these really morose songs about relationships gone bad that just one after the. There's a group of people who I hang out with in the science fiction community center who call that genre of music of just dark, depressing songs. They call it os, and I'm like, why do you call it os? Because it's os, and morose, and that's what I was writing for a long time, was a lot of os. And then in between songs, I would tell ridiculous stories. And someone finally turned to me and said, you know, you should really take that story and turn it into a song. And that's when it started. I started sort of injecting more of my personality into the songs. And even if I was writing about bad relationships, I could still find a way to make it humorous and be more like who I am between songs, just make it that way during the song.
That's one of my favorite things about folk music, is that people introduce their own personalities to it and allows them to change the way it sounds. You know, if, for those who don't really know folk music, they think of it all as, you know, one person with a guitar, and it's all very similar. It's just somebody singing about a song they wrote on the guitar, you know, and I liked how different artists kind of introduce their own little flavors and own little things to it. And that's what really makes it folk music, is that it's coming from, you know, themselves, and it's not coming from something that somebody else has done numerous times. How do you
like
kind
wildflowers, you know, it's very organic.
I was
Yeah.
too, that you had a lot of social commentary, you know, in there as well, and the social commentary is such a big part of folk music too. I was wondering if other people have done a lot with that in their work.
Yeah, I grew up listening to a lot of folk music. My parents listened to lots of Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger and Peter Paul and Mary and all that. And, you know, and of course I watched Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and went to camp. And camp is like the ultimate folk music, because it's just, you know, there's a lot of times not even an instrument, but it's music that gets passed around from one generation to the next. And a lot of those camp songs go on for generations. And they go through the folk process where the song changes, like the game Grapevine, you know, that people remember a little differently or add a little verse or whatever. But, you know, it's, yeah, I have a lot of folk influences, even though it wouldn't necessarily be obvious that you're like, you do humor, but there's humor in folk music for sure.
Does anybody else have anything about how folk music is great for social commentary? All right, well, if not, then we will move to our next group of performers. So for the next group, we have Marie and Jay from Circle Around the Sun. They're a New Jersey-based acoustic band. And while they do not have all of their members here with them, two of them were able to come on with us to play a little bit for us. So Marie and Jay.
Thanks so much. We're really glad to be here. We miss our lead guitarist, Chris Bucata.
Boy, do we ever.
Our acoustic bass player, George LaVecchia, and our rhythm guitarist, Joe Bryce. But Jay and I founded this band long, long ago, and we wish the others could be here, but we know they can't. This song we're going to do is one that I wrote with a good friend of ours, Dave Sherman. It's called Dolly's Diner, and it's about people who have to be apart from the ones they love for whatever reason. This song is about people whose jobs disappeared and the guy had to travel to get a job someplace else. But it's about loneliness and being apart. And that seems so relevant right now, unfortunately. So I hope you enjoy it. It's called Dolly's Diner.
Yeah, I'll just mention that Marie and I have spent the past 15 years harmonizing, and it's really magic.
Yeah.
This wasn't what I bargained for. When we planned to wed, we'd spend our lives together, sleep together in our bed. Now I work in Santa Fe, you're back in St. Paul. God knows we need the money after all. We cruised until the plant closed, then we hit the skids. I couldn't find another job, you couldn't leave the kids. Every week we lived on less, till there was nothing left. Our loving was the only thing we kept. But I keep on working here, try to still my mind, not think of what I'm doing, or the life I left behind. Do the job I promised to end. When the work is done, I'll stop at Dolly's Diner, let the waitress call me hon. I'll stop in at the diner, need someone to call me hon. My cousin helped me get this job. I hate it, but it pays. It's not exactly legal, but it seemed the only way. But I can save a little more. I'll quit and send for you. Recreate the life that we once knew. But I'll keep on working here, try to still my mind, not think of what I'm doing, or the life I left behind. Do the job I promised to end. When the work is done, I'll stop at Dolly's Diner, let the waitress call me hon. I'll stop in at the diner, need someone to call me hon. I'm not the man I used to be, it worries me to say. I like the old one better, and I fear you'll feel the same. My heart still longs for you, and I hope that's enough, and that I haven't changed too much to love. But I keep on working here, try to still my mind, not think of what I'm doing, or the life I left behind. Do the job I promised to end. when the work is done. Dolly's diner, need someone to call me hon. I'll stop in at the diner, need someone to call me hon.
Well, thank you, Marie and Jay. So the one big difference between your group and the other groups that were going to perform at the Folk Festival this year on the shore stage, was you were the only group that had more than one person. How does having multiple people in a band, factor into your songwriting?
Well, so far it really hasn't, although there's a lot of talented people in the band and we're starting to sort of cross-fertilize and have people work together on new things. This was basically a song that we brought to the band and they liked it. So they were happy to be part of it. It's a very eclectic band with a lot of talent, and we have a lot of fun performing, and we have a lot of fun rehearsing. We miss rehearsing.
Yeah, I miss that terribly. One thing I would want to pass along, though, to people who really like to sing is that we have some terrific guitar players in the band, and being freed from playing guitar and concentrating on singing is really a wonderful thing for me, and I miss that.
Yeah. But it's wonderful to be part of a collection of musicians.
Yeah.
You know, when a bare bones singer-songwriter duo, the other instruments and the other voices really make it even richer. So, I have great respect for solo singer-songwriters. It's hard to do that well. So in a sense, we get to help each other when we're in a band.
And we also have many different influences. So we have a rock and roll bassist, and people come from all different country rhythm guitarists, and people come from all directions. Yeah. And somehow it mashes up and it makes everything that much more interesting.
And we have so much fun that, I kind of think shows in the performance. We like each other. We like being together. We like making music together. So it's just, it's a joy to do it.
So for the other performers on this, when you were first starting out, did you make a clear decision that you wanted to perform solo? Did you think about maybe performing with a band, or was it just kind of fell in that you decided to be a solo performer?
Well, Jay was initially a solo performer, and I was, I was basically the harmony singer who wanted to sing with him. So the two of us started, and then I started to want to do a little more of myself and got a chance to do that. And then two of us performed together for a very long time, just as a duo. But then we heard Chris Bucata at a party, and he was a scintillating lead guitar player. We asked him to sit in like a couple of things, and it just so musical that it was part of it, the instant connection. And then we have actually had different contingencies of several and other bands and all that. Currently, we have this amazing rock and roll acoustic bass guitar player, and he has such a musical sense. Really, he's kind of the quality control person in the band. It's so, and then we really needed a rhythm guitar player because Jay was having some trouble playing guitar, just a little trouble with nerves in his hands. So we asked Joe Bryce to join us. And
did we lose them? Hold on.
I think we lost your sound, Marie. But maybe we can move on to some of the other performers and how you ended up as solo performers, or if you have played in groups as well.
We kind of missed the last thing that you said. I'm sorry, our tech end.
We had lost you a little bit, but we were asking some of the other performers about their experiences as well.
Yeah, I've always been like solo singer-songwriter, but my last show I brought on another guitar player to play lead guitar, and it was so much fun. It added something to the show, you know. The more people, the more it adds, of course, but it was really nice, kind of like how y'all were saying, to just be able to focus on a couple of songs I only sang instead of singing and playing guitar. And it's kind of nice because you can really zero in, and like it's a little bit different, I guess. You don't have to focus on both. You can really just concentrate on getting the message of the lyrics across, you know. So that's nice. It kind of gives and takes.
Yeah, I've had several different duos over the years, and one of them that happened was after I had some very serious health problems and I couldn't play guitar for several months. And one of my friends learned all my songs and played them on guitar so I could sing them. And we wound up working together for a couple of years. That balanced down when I would still be working with him, except he's down in Florida and I'm up here in Jersey now.
That's
So
great.
we just see each other once in a great while, but it was really terrific having someone to write together, someone to spend time with and rehearse with and bounce ideas off of.
Well, for my part, I was an only child, so I did everything myself, solitary. So this quarantine isn't so bad for me personally. I write songs by myself, and I play fingerstyle guitar, and I tend to play a lot of traditional music. So that goes hand in hand. I'm trying to bring those roots across, and it seems like one instrument works. I've worked with a band before, but it seems like fingerstyle guitar kind of goes out the window, and you end up having to strum songs. So I like performing solo, but sometimes it's nice to change things up and add a group to the music. So.
Well, thank you. So, since you are actually going to be our last performer, I want to introduce Nina Ricci, who interprets traditional songs from the patchwork of the Americana quilt. So, Nina?
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to do a song that is going to be on my newest album, which is going to be a tribute to Joan Baez. It's called Fare Thee Well, a Joan Baez tribute. Some of you may know that this past year was her farewell tour. She was saying goodbye to all of her fans all over the world. And I loved her music as a teenager, and she's part of the reason I started pursuing folk music. So I decided to record this tribute based on her 1960 debut album. And it was mostly traditional songs, and I recorded them in the original album order. And then I decided to record a tribute song that I call Club 47, Fare Thee Well, John. Okay, that's the song. Black raven skies and tresses blowing in the wind, running to make her show, barefoot in the nighttime snow. She was barely 18 and already catching light, illumined in black and white, in a picture from '59. The crowds were lined outside. Was it the glow of the coffee house light that pulled the people in? In Cambridge, singing from the stage of the Club 47. One summer in Chicago, the gate of corn pulled her in. She was under the wings of Bob Gibson, pillowed in Odetta's breast. Reviews from Newport read, Her star is on the rise. She still played Tuesday nights, selling out the Club 47. Was it the glow of the coffee house light that pulled the people in Cambridge, singing from the stage of the Club 47? In Greenwich Village, she met Bob Dylan, and history was made that day. The ancient folk songs turned to anthems. The times were changing, so the music changed. And the Cambridge angel had to go her way. She bid farewell to the old cafe. Was it the glow of the coffee house light that pulled the people in Cambridge, singing from the stage at the Club 47? Years of concerts on the road, and a voice heard round the world. I was just 14 years old the first time I heard you sing. It was blowing in the wind. I was starting to learn the guitar, to write songs and to sing. When I quit the piano, I think my dad thought, she'll never amount to anything. Then your voice came to me through the speakers in my room. I got sidelined on rock and roll by my new folk hero. 50 years of music and a voice heard round the world. Fare thee well, Joe. I was reading your memoir for fun. For summer I turned 18, heading to Boston in the fall to start college classes in the spring. Then your voice came to me through speakers in my room. I started to see that I was treading the embers of the Harvard Square folk music scene. Years of concerts on the road, and leagues of fans adore you. Living history unfolds with a farewell circuit ending. 60 years of music with a voice heard round the world. Fare thee well, Jonah. Fare thee well, Jonah. Fare thee well, Jonah.
Thank you very much, Nina. So one of the things you talked about at the beginning before you were introducing is that you're more of a traditional folk singer. For those of our audience who doesn't know, can you discuss a little bit about the difference between traditional and revivalist and why you decided to be more of the traditional route?
Well, I actually do a couple different kinds of folk music. I kind of, I'll go and answer your question now. I think you can say that revivalist music is taking traditional songs and bringing it to where you are. When we're talking about folk revival, we're talking about like 19 late 40s, early 50s with Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, and that's like the first wave folk revival. And later in the 50s was the second wave revival. Some people, including Michael Jonathan, Michael Gabriel, who is part of the New Jersey Folk Festival, says that right now we may be in a folk revival period, and we will maybe not know that until we're through it and we look back on it. But I think that revivalist music is really taking those old traditional songs that may be English, Scottish, Irish music, and bringing them into now, and maybe even American music, earlier American music, bring it into now. And it's funny how those songs can be so old and archaic seeming, but when you sing them now, they still resonate with people. There's something in the heart of a folk song that just speaks to other people's hearts. There's something undying and that's always true, something that rings true with folk music and resonates with anybody who will take the time to listen.
So I also see that, one of the questions I want to be sure to ask before, as we wrap things up was, obviously everybody has a lot of time on their hands right now. So I wanted each performer to kind of either give one artist or one that we should all listen to, or one influential artist that, that influenced you as a singer, that people can listen to after they, watch this video. So Nina, you want to go first?
Sure, I'd like to do that. Well, I have just discovered a man named Bob Franke, who is, he's from the Massachusetts area. I just learned a song of his called The Great Storm Is Over. And it's a work of, I think, literary genius, really. If you just sit down, it has biblical undertones to it, but it's also got, I think it's got something everybody can feel. They can be touched by it. It hit me hard. But yeah, Bob Franke, it's Franke. Recommend.
Awesome. Thank you very much. How about Maria and Jay?
Well, listening to Nina talk about Club 47, for me, everything goes back to Tom Rush. That's for me where everything starts. And that whole crowd at Club 47, I think is just a well of wonderful stuff, and it's a great place to start. It really is.
Marie?
I actually don't have one person. I may be a little weird. In fact, I'm probably more than a little weird. But anyway, I tend to like songs. So I will have a collection of songs by individual people or individual bands that touch me. So, people have asked me, who my hero is. I don't have one hero. It's almost it's kind of like the quilt that you were talking about. I have I have a song from Richard Thompson and a song from Tom Rush and a song from Bonnie Raitt and Dave Carter and just there's a whole lot of people who have created songs that touch me, and that's where I go when I'm trying to think of inspiration. It's like songs that touch me, either the melody or the words, or more commonly both. So I don't have one hero.
Awesome. Well, thank you. How about Carla?
I have been collaborating with Lorin Mayer, Mayer, and she is really funny, very smart, and we're kind of cut from the same cloth. So she was someone I discovered just a couple years ago who has tons and tons of videos up on YouTube. So if you're just looking for laughs, and some of it's political, but it's all really smart. And she's a great person to look up if you're just like, hey, I want to hear something funny and smart. I really like her.
Great. Thanks. And Lorin?
Yeah, so somebody that's really influenced me, probably you all know, is Kacey Musgraves. But she's more in the country kind of scene. As far as more of like a folk sound, Tyler Childers is a really great artist who I really love. He's very, very authentic, and that's what I look for in music. So he's a good favorite as well.
Well, thank you very much. Personally, I think probably one of the best singer-songwriters to ever come out of the game is Jason Isbell. From his work, all of his work is just, you know, he knows how to put words on paper. That's for very sure. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm going to turn it back over to Maria to wrap things up. So thank you very much for all coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's everyone have a little wave. Thank you so much. We are so grateful to have all of you with us. You know, it actually, I'm sitting here listening to everyone play and talk about the way that music has affected their lives. And that's one of the most magical things about the folk festival, I think, is the way that everybody comes together and is able to share their music. And so I'm really moved that we were able to do this in a virtual format. And I'm really glad that you all were able to share your music with all of us here on the call today, but also all the folks who are going to see it when we post it. So I'm really grateful to have all of you here. And I'm going to sign off by thanking our student management team at the New Jersey Folk Festival and the American Studies Department at Rutgers University and our board at the New Jersey Folk Festival. And in particular, for this particular group of artist encounters we were able to do today is sponsored by a grant from the Middlesex County Office of Arts and History. So thank you very much to them. We look forward to doing more presentations. So if you're watching this, please come back for more NJ Folk Fest Virtual 2020. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.